Welcome. Thank you for coming to practice. So, right away, mention that a yoga strap, a band, bathrobe tie, belt, one of those things will come in handy a little bit later on in the practice. So, you may have noticed the invitation, grounding again. What's with that? Well, let me look at my notes, make sure how I wanted to start here. So, a lot of us have practiced for quite a while. Maybe some of us weeks, months, years, maybe even decades. And we benefit from the physical, uh, the physical forms and movements. But I think those of us who stay with the practice recognize that there's something else going on, and that there's this potential for an inner well-being in addition to just the physical benefits. And that's where grounding comes in. So grounding, one of those things that positive character traits, a steadiness, a stability. And in the yoga tradition, it's mentioned even in the earliest recordings in literature. Bhagavad Gita says inner alignment first, then action. And there's this other term, phrase in the practice called swasta or svasta, and that interprets to being established in your own being. So, that being said, let's get started. We're going to start on the floor, on your back, with knees folded, soles of the feet on the floor. The form that's nowadays called constructive rest position. And begin just by feeling the floor. There's an invitation from gravity, some downward energy. But at the same time, simultaneously, there's this support of the floor of the earth. Where they meet, that interface is where you can learn to abide. Just feeling that downward energy, gravity, yes. Supporting energy, yes. All right. Letting your jaw release, tongue completely fill that lower jaw. Even if that means you gotta breathe through your mouth. Nose and mouth. A few moments ago, I was sitting watching out the window. Leaves were falling. Let your exhale have that same quality as a falling leaf. It takes its time, but it goes all the way to the ground. All right. Being just mild connection to the floor. Bit of release in your jaw. Letting that exhale run its course. We'll begin with some movements. How about on an exhale, tipping your hips, rolling lower back into the floor. Exhale, rolling down. And inhale, arching lower back. So lower back, rounding into the floor on the exhale, arching up on the inhale. All right. After just one more of those movements, patterning the movement, getting the feeling, just letting that movement trail on. And then arms are on the floor. How about starting with palms up? Arms rotated so palms are up. And then on an exhale, rolling arms so that palms come to the floor and shoulders lift up towards the ceiling. Inhale, open, palms up. Exhale, rolling in, shoulders lifting. So very similar to what you did with your hips, lower back a moment ago. Yeah, I might have seen this one coming. We're going to combine those two movements so that next time you exhale, arms roll in, lower back rolls to the floor. Inhale, arms open, lower back up. Getting a more dynamic connection with that sense of ground. On the ground for sure, feeling the ground, but at the same time, simultaneously, some movement. We can have both, can't we? Have action and stability. All right. Next time, just letting lower back come to neutral. Arms can be wherever they are, either rolled open or palms down. And then we'll take those legs feet wide. If you're on your mat, almost as wide as your mat. Exhale, tip the knees over to one side. Inhale them back up and exhale the other side. So knees tipping side to side. Noticing along the way how when they tip to one side, the opposite side hip comes up in the air. So next time one of those hip sides is up in the air, rather than lifting your knee, see if you can draw that hip down to the floor, down to the ground, grounding, to bring knees over. And same thing on the other side. So rather than knees leading the way, hip drawing down, leading the way. Okay. And then just knees coming to neutral. Reaching arms up towards the ceiling. Crossing your arms, grabbing opposite elbows. And same thing we did with the knees. Elbows off to one side. Inhale up and exhale the other side. And you can let your head turn to follow that movement if you wish. Just like we did with knees and hips, same thing with elbows and shoulder blades. Next time elbows are off to the side, pausing there. And then rather than lifting your elbows, taking that opposite side shoulder blade and drawing it under to lift the elbows over. And side to side like that, moving from shoulder blade rather than elbows. And just like we did those other movements earlier, beginning to combine these last two movements. Knees are going to tip one way, elbows the other way, and then it's going to be hip down, shoulder blade down to bring them back across. So moving a little bit more intentionally from closer to the center. Recognizing the movement for sure. Recognizing the stability as well. Yeah, we got that grounding, no question. You're on the ground. We got the movement. All right. And then just coming center, drawing your knees in and rolling to one side and coming up to hands and knees. Hands under shoulders and knees under hips. And here, pushing into the floor so that shoulder blades slide around your rib cage towards the floor. Lower back between the shoulder blades, upper back kind of round up. And then letting shoulder blades come together on your back. So it's shoulder protraction, rounding to the floor, shoulder retraction. Shoulder blades come together on your back. So back and forth, finding end range of motion both ways. So you can land about in the middle. So landing about in the middle, shoulders neither protracted nor retracted. And then a little bit more intentionally letting little finger side of your hand move into the floor. Outside edge of your knees move towards the ground as well. Keeping that sense of connection, hands and knees. Exhale, rounding your lower back. Looking back between your legs. Inhale, arching. So with that connection, intentionally grounding outside of the hands, outside of the knees. This movement may not be as large as it sometimes is, or without the grounding, it could be. But that's not where we're headed for today. We want this experience, if possible, that there's connection, stability, yes. There's also action, mobility, yes. All right. Coming to a neutral back and taking these back a ways, good 6 to 8 inches, and seat back towards your heels. And then hips coming forward, shoulders over hands. You know, chakra vikasana. We start this way many times, don't we? And if you remember the progression, it has something to do with next time your seat is back, pausing there, and rather than just lifting your hips, pressing down to the top of your feet, top of the feet pressing down, to bring hips up and forward. When the hips are forward, it's rounding lower back to draw hips back. So a little bit more intention in this movement. Top of the feet working to lift. Lower back rounding to draw. Maybe a potential for that sense of grounding and movement simultaneously. All right. Next time you come back, pausing there, just to rest a moment. And then we'll come forward, bringing these forward a bit, curling your toes under, finding downward facing dog. First one, Adho Mukha. If you like the Sanskrit words. Heels can be lifted, knees off the floor, just getting upside down for now. Coming back to hands and knees, stepping forward, forward. Here's that hips tipping forward to lift, hips tipping back to fold. And from your feet, your foundation, let's roll up slowly. So rolling up slowly from your foundation, arms sweeping up all the way up. And we'll go right back down. Exhale, sweeping down. Here's that hip tip to lift, hip tip to fold, finding hands hands and knees and downward facing dog. Go right back to hands and knees. Knees coming back a bit so that when hips come forward, you can align knees, hips, shoulders, and ears. And on an exhale, lowering yourself on down. Back on the heel of your hand, sliding forward and up. And all the way back to child's pose. Moving forward one more time. Aligning knees, hips, shoulders, and ear. Let's pause there. So you're free here to lower from your knees. A little bit more challenge would be if top of the feet are on the floor, lifting your knees. And from top of the feet, straight arm plank, lowering on down. And then drawing back on the heel of your hand to slide forward and up, and finding downward facing dog. All right, coming back to hands and knees, and coming seated first, and then coming onto your back, hands on knees, fingertips pointing towards your toes. And on an exhale, draw knees in towards your shoulders. Inhale, letting them go back out. So exhale, then inhale out. So from here, we often do that mild abdominal engagement. We'll just bypass that for now and head for something that maybe a little bit more, you guessed, grounding. We'll see. The next time knees come in, pausing there. Think of those knees wide, bringing your hands to the floor, and then pressing your heels lightly together. Heels pressed together. Inhale, legs and feet up towards the ceiling, pointing your toes. Inhale, back on down. So a V with your feet and your legs, heels pressed together. Inhaling up and exhaling down. Feeling that connection, lower back to the earth. Yeah. So again, we've got it, don't we? We've got the support of the earth, the invitation of gravity, and some movement. Okay. Next time feet come down, we'll just bring feet to the floor. Feet on the floor, knees folded. And that same hip tipping movement we often do. Exhale, rolling lower back into the floor, and inhale, arching up. Next time you exhale, rolling lower back into the floor. Follow that inclination to let hips lift up towards the ceiling. Roll back on down. So rolling down is not quite the same as just lowering your hips, is it? It requires a little bit of abdominal strength engagement. That may happen when you roll to lift. Keep that strength engagement so that you can roll back down. It's like hips were pulling towards your rib cage as you go up. Keep that same engagement as you go back down. All right, next time, roll and engage to come up. It's pausing when you're up, bringing arms up towards the ceiling, fingertips reaching up, palms facing each other. Feeling that connection between the shoulder blades to the ground. And then rolling your hips down, arms stay up. Arms stay up as hips roll down. And that place between the shoulder blades, from there, see if you can press into the floor. The A wave of pressure going up to the back of your head. Really. So it's inhale, starting this pressure between your shoulder blades up to your back of your head. So sometimes called the 21st century fish pose. It's like a back bend bending into the ground. There you go. All right. And next time you inhale, pressing down, bringing those arms up overhead, thumbs to the floor. Now that place between shoulder blades just lifted off the floor. And exhale, bringing hips up towards the ceiling. Up, 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 up. Perhaps hips be able to lift a little bit higher this time. As hips roll down, arms come up. All right. And then just drawing knees in, rolling to one side, coming to hands and knees, and finding downward facing dog. For just a moment here. We're not quite done on the floor yet. Back to hands and knees. And then bringing right foot forward in front of your hands. Left foot behind, top of the foot on the floor. Coming up to standing on that knee on the floor. And on an inhale, lunging forward, hips coming forward, sweeping up, and exhale coming down. So we were in that child's pose where you were pressing down with the top of your feet in order to ask hips to lift up and forward. Chakravakasana, coming out of child's pose, coming forward. Same thing right here. Top of the foot that's on the ground pushes down to bring hips forward. Arm up. Next time you come forward, arm up, pausing there. And then just turning your gaze to look away from that up in the air arm. Exhale, coming on down. Hands to the floor. Coming to hands and knees. Downward facing dog. Just checking inside to side. Seeing if one side feels a little bit more light and mobile, the other side perhaps a little bit more grounded. Coming back to hands and knees, other foot coming forward. So now, other foot coming forward, other knee on the floor. Starting right away with top of the foot on the floor in back, pressing down with the top of the foot to bring the hips forward. So just like we did earlier. So much of this practice, we think, oh, well, that's different and that's different. It's a completely different movement, but there's so much in common from one movement form to the next. There's really a lot of threads in the fabric that are common. All right, next time we're forward, pausing there. Turning your gaze to look away from that up in the air arm. Bringing arm down. Coming to hands and knees. Finding downward facing dog. All right. So still not quite done on the floor. So being down on the floor close to the ground. You guessed it. Yeah. It's another way of having that tangible physical sensation of steadiness, grounding. So on your knees, and then it's left hand out to the side, right leg out to the side, and arm resting on that outstretched leg. And as the leg comes up, arm sweeps up and over, turning your gaze to look at that hand on the floor. Just a couple breaths here. And we'll move with this. So it's inhale, arm down, leg down, exhale, lifting. And you might think the breathing ought to be the other way around. Why don't we inhale on the opening? Inhale on the opening can augment your breathing, but exhale on the opening can more effectively open the structure. All right, one last time. Coming on down, coming to hands and knees, and going to the other side. I guess we don't come to hands and knees, we just come to knees. Okay, same thing on the other side. You probably are there already. And we'll exhale up and over and inhale down. So we've got a fair amount of movement going on here. How about that sense of support from the floor as well? Support under your hand, support under your knee. All right, one more time up and over, pausing for just a breath, and then coming down, coming to knees, and now we'll go to hands and knees, and then downward facing dog. Evening everything out. Back to hands and knees, stepping forward, forward, forward. Bit of a lift. Inhale, upside down. Exhale, and sweep it all the way up. All right. And first standing form and movement almost always is this one right here. Legs rotated out, feet rotated out a bit too, hands to heart. And then it's knees forward and seat back to come down. Legs straightening to come up. Patterning the movement. The next time you come down, pausing there, and taking your hands and putting them on your thigh bones, up close to your hips, that hip crease, and with some pressure down on your thigh bones, drawing heels towards each other to come up. Keep that pressing on your thigh bones, heels getting light to come down. So feet drawing together, coming up, heels getting light to come down. Some pressure on those thigh bones. All right. The next time we come down, pressure on the thigh bones, we'll straighten the left leg and then straighten the right leg. Feeling movement, yes. Support from the earth, yes. Then coming center, feet drawing together to come up, stepping feet together, resting for just a moment, and then we'll take a wide stride one more time. Right toes turning in, left toes turning out, and hands to heart. And we'll just bring that front knee, left knee forward and back, folding and straightening. Noticing how when knee comes forward, back foot, opposite foot, heel can get kind of light. Next time, both legs are straight, pausing there. So let's ground the outside edge of the heel on the back leg. So back leg that wasn't bent. Yeah. Outside edge of the heel, way out there on the outside edges, actively moving into the floor. Whole leg straight. And now, how far forward can you bring the moving knee without losing that connection in the back foot? Without losing that connection, back foot heel moving into the floor. The knee may come forward not all that far. And then it's hand on thigh bone on the folded leg, pressing down, tipping your hips, and free arm up in the air. So one leg outside edge of the heel, reaching into the ground, folded leg, thigh bone being pressed down. We got some grounding. Yeah, there's your old friend. Arm coming down, pressing down to come up. Same study on the other side. So it starts with left toes turning in, right toes turning out, patterning the movement. It's always good to start in this way, patterning a movement that you're going to study, or even if you aren't going to study. Next time, both legs are straight, pausing there, and then it's that back leg now, outside edge of the heel, pressing into the ground. Remember the old school cell phones? How you had to pull the antenna? Maybe some of you don't. Had to pull the antenna out. Same thing here. That whole leg through the outside edge of your back heel, telescoping into the ground. Keeping that connection. How far forward can you bring the front knee? Right knee coming forward, yes. Only to the place where you can still feel that direct connection, back foot, heel to the floor. All right. And then it's hand on thigh, pressing the thigh down on the folded leg, tipping your hips, free arm up. Yeah. Some support under both feet. Perhaps feeling that connection not just in the feet, but a little bit higher up the kinetic chain as well. Okay, bringing the arm down, press it down to come up, stepping feet together. Inhale, sweeping up, and exhale, folding, pausing here. You know, often we go through this movement, folding and lifting, without a lot of awareness of where the foundation, where your support is coming from. So really feeling that support under your feet. From your feet, your foundation, this time, kind of a slow roll to come up and sweep up from your foundation. Okay, let's see. Gotta make sure we're headed in the right direction here. I think we'll do one more, at least. Standing form and movement. So similar to what we did before. Right foot turning in, left foot turning out. And similar to what we did before as well. That back leg, right leg, outside edge of the heel, connecting to the ground. Leg whole, leg straight. And then it's front knee, left knee coming forward, but only to the place again where you can still feel a direct connection in the back foot, back heel. And again, it's tipping at your hips. Rather than hand on thigh bone, it's hand on lower leg. Hand pressing into the front of the lower leg, folded leg. Hand pressing in, leg pressing back by way of front foot heel getting light. Front foot heel getting light. Doesn't have to lift off the ground, just getting light. And then drawing hips back, hips shifting back a little bit more over that back leg and foot to bring the front knee approaching straight. It may not come all the way straight, especially if heel is light in front. Bringing the arm up. You're free here to look forward, look up, or look down. I prefer to look down today, because it's often said that where eyes go, energy goes. Arm coming down, knee coming forward, pressing down to come up. Right away going to the other side. Left foot turning in, right foot turning out. Right away connecting outside edge of the now left foot heel, back foot. Outside edge of the heel, telescoping in. Keeping that connection as the knee comes forward. So we've got two things going on here, don't we? We got connection and we got movement. Hips tipping, hand to shin, hand to lower leg in front. You may have lost some of that connection back here. If that's the case, then just reestablish it, whatever it takes to do that. And then hand is going to press to lower leg. Lower leg is going to press back through heel lifting. And then drawing hips back. Yeah. So even more support now, landing in the back. Leg in, foot, arm up. Looking forward, up or down. No need to stay here very long, just long enough to find your old friend grounding. Hand coming down, pressing down to come. Stepping feet together, standing for a moment. Yeah. That last form and movement we did might be surprising, but in the practice, in the tradition, noted to be one of the most settling, calming, and grounding movements and forms you can do. Looks a little odd, but there it is. All right. Let's do one more standing form, and that is taking a wide stride this time, toes pointing more or less straight forward, and hands on hips, just hinging at your hips, folding forward. And then, like we did before, just a moment ago, this time it's both hands on both lower legs. That shin area, front of the lower leg. And like we did before just a moment ago, heels getting light. Heels getting light. Lower leg moving forward, yes. Hips moving back, yes. Seat moving back. So even if that means that knees begin to fold, adjust a little bit. Feel that connection with hamstrings working. See if you can keep that connection. Lower leg forward, hips back, hamstrings strong as you bring hands to hips. And use those hamstring muscles to lift torso. Up, 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 all the way up. Hamstrings working all the way up. Keep them working if you can to lower back on down. Oh boy, there's your old friend ground. Right under your feet. Support, steadiness. Yeah, up and down. Exhaling down, inhaling up. Feeling that connection. Next time we come down, pausing, taking left hand to the floor in front of you, even if knees have to bend a bit. Not really going for absolute straight leg stretching. What we're going for is movement, being dynamic, action, and stability. So rotating your hips and lifting your arm, free arm up, bit of a turn. Just trade hands. Up in the air, hand goes to the floor. Other hand goes to your hips. Bring the arm up. Hand down, both hands to hips. Before we come up, it's lower leg forward, hips back. So that hamstrings do all the lifting if possible. To bring you up. 7 feet together. Standing for a moment. How's this posture feel? From the waist down. Open to the possibility that there may be a sense of grounding. Okay, okay. Let's head for the floor. Inhale, sweep it up. Exhale, folding. We'll just come right down to hands and feet. And coming onto the floor in a prone position. Hands back by your rib cage so that forearm is more or less perpendicular. And then in order to keep that connection to the ground, legs going wide. Legs going wide as your mat, shoulder width or a little bit wider. The top of the feet on the ground. Now, lifting those straight out legs and drawing them together, heels coming together with legs lifted, and lowering legs on them. So it's starting feet wide, legs wide. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, heels together and down. So, what do you feel with this movement? Perhaps movement, of course, perhaps support and grounding as well. Next time, legs are together, heels are together, feet are down, pausing there. And then it's just drawing back in the heel of your hands to lift torso, neck, and head. And exhale, coming on down. So free to keep moving in this way with that sense of grounding, legs slightly rotated, heels lightly pressing together. If you'd like a bit more challenge, that would be lifting those hands off the floor, extending them back towards your legs. The torso, neck, and head lifted, then the straight legs getting light on the floor as well. And just a breath or two. Exhale, coming on down. Stacking your hands, resting your forehead on your hands. Letting everything release. Letting everything release. Responding to that invitation from gravity. At the same time, perhaps feeling the support. Energy, gravity down, yes. Earth support, yes. Coming up to hands and knees. And all the way back to child's pose. Just resting for a moment there. Staying there. And I'm going to make sure we're headed in the right direction. Yep, we are. And this is where the strap, the band, let's come to seated first. This is where the strap, the band, the belt, the kitchen towel may come in handy. This traditional movement, perhaps you're already familiar with, Supta Padangusthasana, up in the air leg, hamstring stretch. So band, belt, foot, towel going around the forefoot, not in the arch, but up there around the roots of your toes. One end of the band, belt, towel in each hand. And then coming onto your back and drawing that leg up, but only to the place where you begin to feel that stretch. First layer of resistance. And then with your forefoot pressing into the belt, the band, like you were pressing on the accelerator of your car. And then see if you're able to, with hamstrings working, draw that leg back just a little bit farther. And then both ends of the belt, the strap in, the same hand up in the air, leg, hand, leg out to the side. But only to the place where hips begin to tip, and then bringing it back in. So we're not trying to get that leg to the floor because we want to keep a sense of connection to the floor. Both sides of your hip staying connected. Sometimes that free hand could go to your hip on the other side so that you can directly feel when hips start to tip and then bringing the leg back in. One more time out to the side, finding that tipping point, and then bringing the leg back, drawing it in just a little farther, and bringing it on down. Same study on the other side. So band around the forefoot, find that first layer of resistance. Find the first layer so that then forefoot can press into the band, engaging back of the leg muscles. And then asking those muscles to get a bit longer by drawing in a bit farther. Both ends of the band in one hand, leg up in the air, side hand, and perhaps even hand, opposite hand on opposite hip. So when leg goes to the side, you can really, oh my goodness, you can feel it tipping already. So for me, at least today, quite a difference side to side as to how far leg can go before hips begin to tip. And there could be a lot of reasons for that, and it can vary day to day, season to season. Just depends on what those legs and hips were doing a little bit earlier, maybe yesterday, maybe the day before, maybe already this morning. Okay, next time leg comes up, drawing it in just a little bit farther, and then letting it go back on down. Both legs out on the floor. And drawing these in towards your shoulders, rolling to one side, and coming up seated. And we'll do a couple of seated turns. Coming seated, it's sometimes automatic that one leg wants to come in first. And for me, that's usually the dominant side, my right hand side. Right leg wants to come in first. Let's just switch them around. And then it's left hand to right knee. Right hand comes behind. And rotating to find that first layer of resistance. Noting about what that range of motion is. And then coming on forward. And just sitting with hands on knees. letting your eyes close. So with eyes closed, beginning to shift your gaze under those closed eyelids to the right, same direction we just turned. So shifting gaze under the closed eyes to the right and then back center, maybe 5 or 6 times. Remember earlier in triangle pose, I said, you're free to look down because it's often said where eyes go, energy goes. We'll see what happens here. Next time, eyes are shifted to the right under closed lids. Pausing there, keeping them shifted as the left hand goes to right knee, right hand comes behind. Keeping eyes shifted, eyes closed as you rotate, rotate, rotate. And then opening your eyes, seeing what, if any, change in mobility there may be. And then closing your eyes and shifting them back. So not moving yet, just shifting eyes under those closed lids. Shifting them down to the left. And suspending your hands, eyes shifted to the left under closed lids. And then exhale, unwinding. Going to the other side. So it's just a simple turn first. Right hand to left knee, left hand comes behind, rotating, finding the range of motion. And then coming back forward, closing your eyes under the closed eyelids, shifting your gaze over to the left and back center. So just an experiment. Maybe a shift in mobility for you, or it may not. It may be not so much on the other side, it might be more or even less on this side. Next time, eyelids are closed and gaze is shifted to the left. Then it's right hand to left knee, left hand comes behind. And following that, gaze under the closed eyelids, rotating, turning, turning, turning. Opening your eyes to check and see what that range of motion might be. And then closing your eyes again, just before we turn the torso back, shifting gaze back towards the center. And this time, keeping eyes closed, gaze shifted now to the right, lifting your hands, rotating, keeping eyes closed for just a moment. And perhaps bringing hands to your lap, elbows straight down from your shoulders. Seeing what, if any, sense of grounding you feel. All right. And letting your eyes open, come onto your back. So a little bit more movement before we finish up. Just a little. Coming onto your back. And hands on knees, draw knees in towards your shoulders. Exhale, knees in. Inhale, back out. Yeah. Kind of where we started. I would say exactly where we started. Yep. Well, then we'll move in a little different way right here. And that is next time knees are in. Then taking those knees a little bit wider so you can bring soles of the feet together. Maybe soles of the feet completely touch each other. Maybe they don't quite. So whatever that engagement is for you. And then hands could be on your shins or on your ankles. I would recommend no hands on the feet, because hands on the feet usually results in a lot of pushing and pulling. And all we're doing here is resting hands, lightly supporting those knees wide and feet together, perhaps beginning to rock side to side on your lower back. Mhm. Lower back completely connected to the ground. Upper back and back of the head as well. Okay. You're welcome to stay here. Or you could just cross your ankles so that one leg is crossed over the other down there near your ankles. And again, rocking side to side. And your feet may be a little bit more accessible. If possible, accessible, you could reach up and grab big toe on each foot. hmm And again, rocking side to side. And then recrossing your legs so that now the other lower leg is on top, crossed at the ankles. Hands on shins or grabbing toes. Rocking for just another breath or two. And then bringing soles of the feet to the floor. Arms down as well. So hands could rest on the floor. A lot of people find that it's just as useful, if not more useful, to let hands rest on your abdomen. Hands resting on abdomen may have the potential for weight of the hands to contribute to that sense of releasing to the ground. So here you're welcome to stay knees folded or legs straight out for just the last minute or so. No more than a minute. Way back in the beginning, remember, I said I was looking out the window, leaves were falling. Letting your exhale have the same quality of release as that falling leaf. We've been holding on months. Now we can let go. All right. Drawing your next inhale a little bit longer. Longer, not the same as deeper. Opening your eyes. First transition is drawing knees in. Whether knees are folded or legs are straight, just draw knees in. Rolling to one side. And coming up seated. Waiting for everyone to come seated. And then we'll take a collective inhale and exhale, hands to heart. Namaste. Thank you for coming to practice.